All right, what's up, everybody? Thank
Go
you
ahead,
all for
JG.
joining JGTechBlog. It's been a while, but we got an interesting broadcast to say the least. We got a lot of stuff going on, as you guys know. For everybody on my channel, JGTechBlog, the LG Stylo 5 is finally coming out. It's one of the most selling phones at Metro, and everybody that I know usually is very excited about the leaks and the details for that phone. Also, we have Pete here. Welcome, Pete. This is your first time on the channel, right?
Yep. Ahoy.
All right. Well, welcome. Good to have you. And so we'll give you guys also like a merger update towards the end. Also, there's a new phone that's going to be released tomorrow. So stay tuned. We're also going to be telling you guys about that. So, Steve, what do you think? How should we tackle this? What should we talk about first?
Oh, are you asking me, JG?
Steve, you there?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said Pete. My bad, man. So I think what we'll do is I think we'll start with the new phone. We'll talk about some of the different specifications, the features. I think we'll look at pricing. I think that's going to be a big thing, along with some of the changes that we're expecting for this year in the Stylo 5. So we'll talk about the old one last year, and then we'll talk about the new one for this year. We'll go through the pricing, the specs, and then we'll wrap that up, and then we'll talk a little bit about the merger and anything that's been happening for the last week since the last podcast. And then we'll kind of wrap things up with how this is going to be implicating the major prepaid carriers.
Okay, sounds good. So we uploaded a video yesterday with some of the details that we have so far. If you guys haven't watched that, we're going to give you a quick recap. Basically, there is some rumors about what's going to be the specs. The design itself, so far, we already have the renders of that. Actually, let me see if I can share my screen, and I will show you guys the renders for those that have not seen it. In the meantime, if you want to say a little bit about the specs.
So what we're expecting from the specifications is I don't know, I think probably the best way to say it is probably very similar to last year's model. I'm not sure how much it's going to actually deviate. So we expect it to kind of be that mid-range to budget type segment. Should be priced pretty attractively, very affordable. I'm expecting similar pricing to last year. And if that's the case, we should expect similar specs. But there are some people reporting that possibly it could have some extra RAM. I know, JG, we've talked about it already. I expect it to maybe have 2 or possibly 3 gigs of RAM. Some people, I think, a little bit pie in the sky, they want to see it with 4 gigs of RAM. I just don't see that happening unless they plan on bumping the price a little bit. The camera looks to have a redesign slightly. So they're putting the LED flash along with the camera kind of bundled together on the back. Everything else seems to be pretty much the same. We're going to see USB-C charging, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Everything else is pretty much the same. Maybe there'll be a slight camera upgrade. Maybe the megapixels will be a little bit higher. Maybe the camera performance will be better. But from what I understand, the stylus is supposed to be better, which is good because that's like the calling card of the phone.
Yeah, so basically, I actually got some input from somebody that's very close, in Metro, and they were saying that most likely, and this is my prediction, that the phone is going to be under $250. So let's say around that range, $249 retail. So just to let you guys know, for example, last year, I think for Metro PCS, it was around $239, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have these sort of deals that take it down to, $199, $179. So last year, it was $239 retail. And then after the discounts, it went down to $179. That's without the port-ins. If you do a port-in, of course, it's going to go down to, I think it was $79. So we're talking about retail $249. And we're hoping for a processor that's a Snapdragon 632 and a 3 gigabytes of RAM, and the battery might stay the same because the design of the phone is still the same shape as the Stylo 4. So they might not increase it as much, but if it does increase, it might increase it by 3,500. So that's some kind of insider information that I've got so far. And I'm kind of like, throwing out there, but, it's not written in stone. We don't know until the official specs officially come out.
I will say that in
But what
a
do you think
year's,
about that? Do you think it's possible?
I will say that in a year, that sometimes battery tech can improve enough to where you can get the same size battery, but with a slightly better capacity. So it's possible, like you said, to get, an additional 100 or 200 milliamp hours within the same amount of space. Because what they do essentially with these lithium ion batteries is they layer the cell technology on top of each other. So they'll just lay it a little bit thinner.
Yeah.
So it's possible. Although I don't know if that's going to help this particular model. I'm just saying that it's not out of the realm of possibility to see a 34 or 3,500 milliamp hour battery, which would be good.
They definitely should do that, because if they do increase the RAM, which they definitely should, because if they don't, honestly, there's no reason for anybody to buy the Stylo 5. They're gonna have to at least upgrade, whether it's the processor, or whether it's the RAM, whether it's the stylus pen. Like you said, it would be great to have a Stylus Pro where it's actually somewhat comparable to the Samsung the Note stylus pen. But all of these additions or upgrades will need some type of battery upgrade, because if you don't, you're gonna have a terrible battery life.
Well, that's what I would want to see is if they end up keeping a similar processor, maybe they don't feel compelled to make, a battery size increase. Or, if they were to ramp up, maybe go instead of 1.8 gigahertz, clock it at 1.9 or 2.0. That might kind of be overclocking it and then draining the battery. So they might have to respond with a larger battery. I don't know. I kind of lean towards them probably staying with a slightly higher clocked processor to keep costs down. And 3 gigs of RAM I think is kind of the bare bones to actually run Android really well. Like I had a Moto X4 recently, and even with 3 gigs of RAM on a Snapdragon 626 or a 630, it still had stutters occasionally. I could only imagine it could stutter on a phone that has a stylus pen. So I don't know, take it as you will, but we're kind of hoping for a better battery in terms of bigger size, and then hopefully a better S Pen and seeing a processor upgrade, hopefully.
Yeah, one thing that I realized is that last year's phone scratched up really bad. So for example, if you put your phone down, just slightest movement on the table, it will get scratched up really bad. If you put
Was
it
it
in your
rubberized
pocket,
or was it plastic?
I think it was plastic, but it was like really bad. Like honestly, I think the first day I got it, you would look at it, you'd think I would have that phone for like a year. And so I'm hoping that this year's model is going to be slightly better. So hopefully it's like a metallic, back that they would have. I have some information that they might do something similar to the LG Aristo 3 that we actually had done a video about last week. So there could be a possibility that they change that material to be, somewhat stronger. Because if they didn't, and their specs didn't go up much, honestly, this phone would be crap. And LG would have done a really bad job if they didn't improve in that terms. But we'll see.
Honestly,
We'll see what happens.
honestly, JG, if they keep the specs the same, the price on the phone should actually go down. Like instead of selling it introductory at like unlock 239 or carrier branded 179, we should see that price go down about $30. It's been a year. The bill of materials goes down with time. So if anything, they could say, well, here's essentially the same phone as last year. Here's a 15% price decrease. But people really don't even want that. They're willing to pay the same price, but they want to see an upgrade in processor and RAM, because that's what the phone was missing. If you had to say anything was wrong with this phone, people probably said an extra gig of RAM, a slightly better processor, and a slightly bigger battery, and this thing is fantastic.
I agree 100%. I've talked to some people that are like, stylus fans, and they've had a stylus phone for a very long time. Many of them were actually saying that we don't mind paying a little bit extra. It's $20, $50 more if it had that additional RAM, processor and stuff like that. And, mind you, the ones that are coming out from Metro are not identical to the ones at Boost or Cricket. If I'm not mistaken, when me and you were looking up the details for Boost, they had, what kind of processor was it? MediaTek?
It was a MediaTek processor. And and JG, friends don't let friends use MediaTek, man.
That is true.
Because those MediaTek processor phones don't get updates. MediaTek processors aren't powerful. They just don't cut it. The Snapdragon's the way to go.
I don't even recommend MediaTek for microcontrollers.
Can't do it.
That's terrible, man. So hopefully, like the unlocked models, we're going to be better. So if you're talking, unlocked model, that's selling probably at $250, or maybe they even go up to $399. I don't know. So best case scenario, if we get like 4 gigabytes of RAM, let's say Snapdragon 632 or even 720, if we can get there, that would be awesome. But I doubt that's going to happen.
I'm going to describe a phone for you guys, and I'm going to see if you can guess it. Just let me finish this entire description, okay? Think about the recent phones that have come out. This phone has a Snapdragon 670 chipset. It's a 6-inch display. It's 1080p. It has 4 gigs of RAM. And it's a well-known, reputable phone brand, and it's got one of the best cameras in the business. Do you guys know which phone I'm talking about?
Is that the OnePlus?
No. You got to come down a little bit. Pete, you know what this is. I have this phone.
Pixel 3a XL?
How much is the Pixel 3a XL, Pete?
It's like $350, right?
No. It's $479 for the XL.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What I just described to you, JG, is a phone that has all the features that you would want in this LG, and they price it at $479. So if you're going to come even near what the Pixel has in hardware, you're creeping up towards $400.
The 479 does have a 4K camera.
Well, okay, so fine. But Pete, realistically, a 6 series processor, 4 gigs of RAM, the phone comes up to about $400. I mean, there's no other way to sell it.
Nope.
So while we'd love to see 3 and 4 gigs of RAM, and we'd love to see a 6 series processor, we know that the price would go up exponentially.
So you think it's not possible for let's say a 632 processor, 3 gigs of RAM, 3300? You think that would be possible for $250?
The last phone I saw, other than the Google Pixels as an example, was the Moto series. If you remember the Z3 and the Z2 Play, and those phones came in at $499. So that's, and I know those phones get better support, they have better cameras, but like 400 is like a bare minimum to get into a 600 series processor. Maybe a 627 or whatever the most recent upgrade from the 625 was. If you buy a year-old 6 series processor to put in your phones, you might get it down to 400. But it'd be hard to sell the LG on that without the price going up to at least that much.
Well, here's the thing. I was looking at the old model, right? And it's very similar to the Stylo 5. So, and tell me what you think about this. Maybe because they didn't spend as much money on research and development, on changing the design. So maybe they're saving money in that way so they can kind of like, have some leeway in reducing the cost, although putting in a better processor.
So if they do put in a better processor, you've got to anticipate the price coming up at least $20 to $40. Now that could be offset. That could be offset by the fact that it's a year later, so the cost of materials is a little bit less.
Yeah.
But then adding an additional gig or 2 gigs of RAM, that cost. Pete, what's the estimated cost on mobile RAM these days?
I haven't looked into it, to tell you the truth.
Something tells me for every gig of RAM additional over 2 gigs, you got to be looking at $20 to $40.
I could easily see that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So what if they went up? What if they went up to $349 instead of the $299 unlocked? Or what if they went up from $249 to $299? Would you be willing to pay it for the extra RAM?
I doubt people are gonna. That's a big jump. You see, I don't think people are willing to go that far. What I think might happen, they will increase something for sure. They can't just leave it the same way it is. If anything does happen, eventually end up happening, the price. They were selling it $179 last year. They might go to $199 this year. That I think anything more than $200, I don't think anybody's willing to put as much money down.
So if they go to $199, then they should add that gig of RAM then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but even with the extra gig of RAM, Well, will that be enough reason for people to upgrade, right? You got the same design, you got an extra gig. Why? Let's say I have a Stylo 4. Why would I go out and spend $200 for the same phone, but with 3 gigs instead of 2 gigs? Like,
Well,
that's not.
well, hold on. If they upgraded 3 things, let's say they upgraded the RAM by 1 gig at least, and let's say they also upgraded
Yeah.
the stylus, made it better, and let's say that they increased battery capacity by 10%. Is that enough to get the job done?
And the software, yeah, and let's say the software, they have to at least give us Android 9, at least Pie,
Of
right?
course. It's got to come with it. 9's been out for almost 10 months. It's been 9 months or so.
And developers have had it even longer than that.
Yeah, and they've been on developer previews for a year and a half, probably.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see.
And they haven't been giving me up for the Stylo 4. Anyways, that's just predictions, and this is what we know so far. As soon as we have new and updated and official information, definitely make sure you subscribe to the JGTech blog, and we will update you with any new information. Also, just want to let you guys know that there is a new phone that is releasing tomorrow. Exclusive, getting this information exclusive from JGTechBlog. It is a new phone, and it's a new manufacturer that has come in to Metro by Tmobile. It's called Fox, if I'm saying that correctly. I think it's Fox Development. It's FOXX, then D at the end. And they're coming out with a phone called the Miro, if I'm saying that right, M-I-R-O. And that phone, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be $49. It's a low-end phone, not like top-notch specs, but let me give you guys just some quick info on it. It's releasing tomorrow, $49. It's going to be 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, 16 gigabytes of internal storage. It is SD card expandable. It has 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's a Qualcomm MSM 8900 1.1 gigahertz quad-core processor. It also has a non-removable, 2,500 milliamp non-removable battery. So you guys heard it here first. If you're interested in a video like that, it will be releasing tomorrow. And if you guys, again, want more info on when that's releasing when we do the review, make sure you're subscribed.
So, JG, I think it's valuable for us to go into the live chat and see what they're saying about the LG Stylo 5. I think just to kind of get the pulse of the people to see what they think about the RAM, the stylus, stuff like that. So, like, so Rafi says they should increase the RAM to 4 gigs. That would be nice. All right, so there's somebody who says, there should be more RAM. Also, Mikey Tech Review says, from the leaks I saw of the LG Stylo 5, don't think customers will have a problem with the back of the phone getting scratched up. Maybe it's rubberized this year. Looks like they might be changing the materials possibly. There was another one I saw in here. Hadika says, knowing Metro, I know that the price will go up. That's what they did with the J7 Star when they were still selling the J7 Prime. And then Brian says at least 4 gigs of RAM. Mikey Tech says, in my opinion, the Stylo 5 will have 3 gigs of RAM, same battery. The only difference will be it'll be running Pi. And then somebody, and I'm looking for it right now. It was very recent in the chat. They said that they would be willing to upgrade from the 4 to the 5 if they were getting the upgraded software. So they'd be running, the newer version of Android, and if it would have like at least 1 more gig of RAM. So having the newer operating system with an extra gig of RAM probably would run a lot better in terms of multitasking and holding up over the course of a year. Because if you think about it, JG, when an LG phone that only has 2 gigs of RAM is a year old, it's probably really just slithering along. It probably is not very zippy or snappy.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people actually last year when I was doing my reviews, I realized that when I do any type of review for any other phone and I would compare it to the Stylo, people would hate on me. They'll be like, nope, the Stylo is the best. You can't compare anything to the Stylo, the Stylo. So no matter what LG comes out with, I have a feeling people are just going to love it and go with it.
The Stylo is like a legendary mid-range entry-level phone. Like, if you get a Stylo, it's got a track record. You know you're getting a pretty good phone that's gonna cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to $200 brand new. And when people port in from Metro and Boost, and they go like from one company to another, they get it at like $79. So really, it's like a great value, for what you're receiving in terms of hardware.
Absolutely, yeah. And so this compares to some really good phones out there. It's not some high specs, but like you said perfectly, with that price range, it's perfect. I just want to ask something for the people in the comment section. Did anybody get a notification? Did a notification go out? Because
I'm not sure. I didn't get a notification like I think we talked about like the videos that were dropped on the channel this week. I didn't receive any notifications.
Yeah. And there's 32 people on the live stream. We usually get way more than that. So I'm thinking something is wrong.
Yeah, something has been happening because even on my channel, on the SMT, the traffic is just, people are telling me in the comment section, didn't get a notification, I don't know what to do because it's a YouTube thing. So like, it's, when you upload a video as a creator, the minute you go public or you submit it, notifications should be sent out almost instantaneously. Instead, I think people are having to dig it out of their subscriptions.
True.
Which is not ideal. You want to get the notifications. We tell them, make sure you have the notification bell on, these types of things. So as a creator, I'm frustrated, JG, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what the solution is.
So right now, you see, we got two people. Brian said, I got the notification. Jared said, I got the notification. But you have Faya Gavin said, I didn't. And Mike, you said, I didn't. So it seems like it's going out to some people, but not everybody, which is interesting. So you want to, let's do this. Should we, for the merger update, let's close it up and then go on to your channel and continue there for the updates about the merger?
Sure. If you guys want to do a merger on my side, just I think what we'll do is we'll end this one and then we'll go migrate over there.
Yeah,